And I just want to thank you so much. We will just wait a couple more minutes for a couple more people to join us, and then we're going to get started. Again, if you're having any tech issues, unmute yourself, let us know what they are, or write your question in the chat box, and we'll try to help you that way. Okay, I'm letting a few more people into the room, and we will get started shortly. For those of you that we just welcomed into our Zoom session room on the team building networking session, welcome. We're going to run through a couple issues around technical access today. First things that we'd like you to do is ask you to enable your video. We're going to be going into some small groups today, and this is a networking session, so we'd really like to connect on as many levels as possible, and that includes visually with one another. Once you've enabled your video, if you could open your Zoom chat box, that is in dead center of your Zoom screen on the bottom, says chat. Simply click on it. It'll open a chat box on the right-hand side of your Zoom screen. In the chat box, there is a link to a Google slide deck. We'd like you to open that now. If you have one computer screen, you'll need to size Zoom on half of your computer screen and the Google slide deck on the other half. If you have two screens, you can have Zoom open on one screen and Google slide deck on the other. We'd like to invite you to go to slide number 9. This is where we are signing in and getting to know who is in the networking session today. And it'll let us know too that you can access the Google slide deck. So if you could share your name, your geographic location, your organization and role, and to please share an obstacle or challenge to teamwork in a reproductive health center that you've experienced or observed. I also want to, highlight for all of you that there's going to be an icebreaker, and then there's going to be some small group work. So you're going to need to unmute yourself when you go into the small groups, and you unmute yourself either by going into the screen where you see your picture. There's a mute and unmute function there, or the lower left-hand corner. Okay. I'm going to wait just one more minute, and then we're going to get started. All right, why don't we get started? Good morning and welcome everyone to the Team Building Networking session of Wisconsin's Reproductive Health Conference. Thank you all for being here today. It's wonderful to see all of you. My name is Amy Murphy. I'm a public health consultant, and I'm a certified and professional group facilitator. And today's session is going to be largely interactive and networking with the focus area around team building and teamwork in a reproductive health setting. If you haven't already, please open up your Google slide deck in the chat box. Get familiar with where your mute and unmute functions are for when you go into your breakout rooms. I'd like to highlight for all of you that you're going to be self-advancing through the slide deck today rather than us sharing a screen, because there's going to be a lot of interaction. If you have any problems accessing the Google slide deck or any Zoom functions, please either unmute yourself and ask us or pop a note into the chat box. We have plenty of technical support here today. If at some time during the session you'd like to get your voice into the large room, we don't have too large of a group. There's only about 25 of us, so that's really manageable. You can always unmute yourself, or you can open up the participant function in Zoom. Again, it's at the bottom of the Zoom screen, and there's a hand raise function there. Why doesn't everyone, if you can open up the participant box, raise your hand and let me know that you can use that? And you can use that at any time during the session today. And then if you also, you can enter any comments or questions into the Zoom chat. So again, if you open up the participant function at the bottom of your Zoom screen, it says participants, looks like little people, 26 of us are in. Hit on that, it'll open up over your Zoom chat, and raise your hand and let me know that you can use that. I hope that all of you have had a chance to look at slides 3 and 4. This is a small tutorial on how to set up your virtual and online meeting space today, either on one screen, two screen, or two devices. And then slide 4 shows if you have one screen, what it can look like. You can have your Google Slides, the gallery view of Zoom, and the chat and participant box open. And again, let us know if you have any questions, either by unmuting yourself or putting a note in the chat box. And thank you all for signing in on slides 5 through 9. It's wonderful to see who's in the room. We have a very large representation from Wisconsin. It's great to see my healthcare education and training partners and the staff from Health First that I've worked with over the years. So you can get a feel for who's in our session today, who we are, where we're from geographically, what organizations we represent. And I love seeing the sharing that you've done around obstacles or challenges to teamwork in the reproductive health setting. And it seems to be pretty heavy on communication, right? How do we communicate effectively? And we'll be talking about all of those things today. Now, I would like to direct you to slide number 12, and you can watch the chat box if you ever lose place of where we are in the slide deck. So today we're going to talk about and describe why teamwork is important in the reproductive health setting. And then we're going to spend more time than the first part focusing on what are characteristics of effective teams. And by going through those domains and aspects of the characteristics of effective teams, you're going to be able to do some self-assessment around your team. Where are we strong? Where do we maybe need some work? What is blocking us? And then we're going to work together and network to share some best practices. Slide 13. We're going to start with an icebreaker because this is a networking session. In just a minute, we're going to put you in groups of 3 where you can introduce yourselves to one another and share your anticipations for our time together today. What do you want to get out of our session when this session ends in about an hour? After the icebreaker, I'll give a very short presentation. It's more framing and contextual and foundational about the importance of effective teamwork and the characteristics of effective teams. Then we're going to put you into some breakout rooms. And as a group, as a small group, we'd like you to discuss what are some best practices around teamwork that either you've experienced or you've observed or that you'd like to try out. Then we're going to come back into the main room. We're going to share some best practices. And then we're going to, if we, as time permits, engage in some personal action planning. What can we do? What can we do back at our clinics or in our work environment to enhance the effectiveness and the efficiency of our team? So with that, I am going to ask Dustin to now get ready to put us into breakout groups. If you go to slide 15, you will have, actually, Dustin, let's make these 5-minute breakout groups. I had said 6 minutes, we'll do 5 minutes. We're gonna have breakout groups of 3. We'd like you to introduce yourself to each other quickly, then share your anticipations of the meeting today. What do you want to get out of this session? And all we ask is that you listen attentively to one another. I see that somebody doesn't have a mic. So Janelle, when you get into that room, you're gonna have to ask your breakout room teammates to enable the chat box in the breakout room so you can communicate in writing. Yep, so go to slide 15 and get ready. And I just wanna warn you, the breakout groups are going to automatically close after 5 minutes, and you're going to be whooshed back into the main meeting room. It might be a little jarring, but we'll give you a 1-minute notice. So have fun with one another and getting to meet one another, and we'll see you in 5 minutes. Wait, take it away, Dustin.
Stand by. We're sending people down.
Looks like there we go. This is some fancy stuff.
Yes, it is very fancy.
So I wonder how they did it where we didn't have to get whooshed out into a breakout room.
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
You
just
don't
don't
have to
select
do
us.
it automatic. Because there were so many of us, we didn't do automatic. I did manual. I just created 10 manual rooms, and both Stefan and I just did it. And he started at the bottom list. I did the top of list. That's why it took maybe 2 extra seconds. But it was going to be too much for the 7 of us to go off and then come back. So smaller group, 2 of us in the room can totally manage getting 25 people into 6 rooms.
So quick. In this case, then, if you do it manually, you just don't assign us to a breakout room, just everyone else goes in.
Correct. Yeah, it pulls up. You tell it how many rooms you want to create. I said 10. And when I click on room 1, it has like the list of everybody's names.
Yeah.
I pick 3 and then I minimize it. When I go to 2, it's just the remaining. So like kind of as you do it, the list just gets smaller. And then I just left it with the 7 of us. So we do have somebody in the waiting room now, a Stephanie Hunter.
Yeah, I just let her in. And it looks like, who's Stefan Corti?
He's with us.
He's with you guys. Okay.
Yep.
Do you want to put Stephanie quickly into a breakout room after we welcome her?
Sure. If you want to walk her through, all the rooms do have 3 people, so she will be a 4th.
Okay.
And we have just under 3 minutes remaining on their clock.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. This is great. We're on time, and it looks like everyone was able to access the Google slide deck pretty well. I don't know if, you know, they're having a hard time with their screens, but welcome, Stephanie. Stephanie, if you...
She disappeared?
Yeah.
Oh, I decided against it. I will say, Amy, I'm keeping an eye on your Google Slides and trying to help people like go to the next one when they're filling in and things like that, and making sure that nothing weird's happening. Like somebody added a slide for a second there and I got rid of it. So
almost always when I do this, somebody does something and I'll say, okay, everybody stop, hit the return button, right? Like that little back button, like whatever you did, we're just going to go back and somebody figures it out. Yeah, that's one of the risks. For sure, but this is great. We're on time. It's a great manageable group. How many people do we have then in terms of participants?
20.
20. So let's put them into 5 breakout rooms of 4 for the small group exercise.
So not back to these 6 rooms that we're in.
Right.
Copy that.
Thanks. Because I think the smaller number of people.
So they're going to come back into the lobby now, right? You're going to talk to them and then we'll.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And then we'll go. Yeah. But then, yeah, if we could do different groups too, then if they could be with different people than they've been within the breakout rooms.
Yeah, I don't really kind of have an idea, but we'll just grab names at random.
Perfect. Yeah, 5 groups of 4 should do it.
Yes, random-ish.
Yeah. And then in about 30 seconds, give them a 1-minute warning.
It is programmed to do that already at the 60-second mark. So it did that 15 seconds ago.
Perfect. Oh,
and it will automatically do it in 45 seconds.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, our timers aren't synced, Dustin.
That's okay.
You're about 12 seconds.
God,
slow.
Can I just tell you how much I appreciate all of you right now?
No problem.
Thank you.
So
We're
they
here
should
for
start
ya.
coming over here in just a few. I'm going to go ahead and mute my microphone, and then I'll just stand by and wait for my cue to send them to, you
Great.
said. We're just going to do 4 groups.
4 groups of,
Yep.
5 groups of 4 people.
5 groups of 4.
Yeah, when we get to that, yeah.
It is saying their timer is up. Would you like me to close and force them to come back?
Yeah.
All right, here they come.
We're just waiting for everyone to come back from all the breakout rooms. When you come back from your breakout rooms, you need to re-enable your chat box and your participant box if you want to use the hand raise function. So you need to open those back up once you come into the main room. And it looks like we're still waiting for a few people to come back. Oh, here we go. Great, welcome back everyone. We hope you enjoyed your initial networking with your fellow participants in the icebreaker and sharing your anticipations and what you'd like to get out of the session today. Who would like to share an anticipation they have or that they heard from someone else in their breakout room? You can either just unmute yourself and get your voice in the room or raise your hand. It'd be really lovely to hear somebody's anticipation today. Okay, we won't force you. So we are now on slide 16. And just a reminder, when you come back from the breakout rooms into the main room, you need to re-enable the Zoom chat box and the participant box if you'd like to raise your hand. We are now on slide 16. So for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm just going to do a short introductory presentation on the importance of teamwork in the reproductive health setting and the characteristics of effective teams. And if you think back to the sign-in we did and the obstacles and challenges that we surfaced, and if you think about the anticipations that your colleagues had today for the session, keep that in mind as we're going through the importance of teamwork and the characteristics and the qualities of effective teams. And if you can also start evaluating your own team in light of these domains and aspects. And as we go through each part of it, think, what are we doing well in terms of our team? Where do we maybe need to improve? Or what is a real block or obstacle? Okay, so we are going to go on to the next slide, which is 16. So why are teams important? So we all want to do more and we all want to do better. So effective teams result in a more effective and patient-centered healthcare delivery system. That is, did we meet the needs of our clients? Did we meet the needs of our populations? And did we improve health outcomes? An effective team, well-oiled and working together, can achieve more than one person can achieve alone. And also in the clinic setting and in healthcare overall, everybody is faced with budget issues, financial issues, fiscal austerity. So if we can do more and serve more, we may be more financially efficient and sustainable. So we can make better use of our time and respect the time of our patients more with this well-coordinated team. And from the clinician's perspective, the nurse practitioner or the OBGYN or the doctor, it can free them up to focus more on the clinical and even more complex aspects of a patient's care. So this is some of the reasons of why teamwork is important. So slide 17, we're going to talk about effective teams across 5 domains. Effective teams have shared goals, vision, and value. There is clearly delineated roles and division of labor and responsibility, and these are in writing, in protocols, policies, procedures, and they're live documents that are constantly updated. You guys surfaced in the introduction when you were signing in that communication seemed to be a major challenge or barrier. So effective communication from your team leader and from each aspect of the team and each individual is important. Not only good communication, but ways that you can regularly communicate. It might be a daily huddle, it might be a daily debrief, it might be a weekly team meeting, it might be a monthly reflection on how we're doing. And then nothing changes unless you're aware of what you're doing. So I always think evaluation is an assessment is a really important cornerstone of process improvement. So when we talk about measurable processes and outcomes, that means you're constantly aware of how you're doing things and the outcomes of doing things. So you have some measures you look at. How many patients are we seeing? How satisfied are they with the services? Are we improving their health outcomes? How are we functioning as a team? Do we feel safe with one another? What are those measures? And finally, even though a team is a very democratic institution, it still requires a leader, and a leader who values teamwork and values this democratic process where everyone has equal weight, responsibility, and power. We're going to go through each one of these domains in more detail. Let's go to the next slide. So shared goals. So the team, including the patient, have a common and clearly identified purpose and shared ownership for the process and outcome. So the patient has something they want to get out of the visit. You are aware of that. You're online with it. And then as a team, you have a shared goal as well. And these goals are really organized around these standardized and documented and institutionalized patient protocols and workflows. These are your policies, your procedures, your processes. Let's go to the next slide, slide 19. I led a very large team for a very long period of time. And in addition to communication, I really felt that clear roles, division of labor, and delineated responsibilities was so important. If someone knew where their responsibilities started and ended and where their team member picked it up, it really helped them focus on doing what they were supposed to do. So each team member has clear expectations and responsibility. There's a deeply embedded sense of trust and respect. Now, sometimes this develops over time, but part of the way it develops is by giving voice to each one of those team members, and a real appreciation for each person's role. And sometimes this can be achieved through shadowing or cross-training, and a real respect for how each member of the team combines for the whole. And the team leader and every member of the team must accept and encourage a diversity of opinion and perspective. So when we ask, what are we doing well? Where do we need improvement? Where did you struggle today? What could I do differently? You need to be open to hearing that, as do all the members of the team. On to the next slide. Effective communication. Now this really surfaced in your needs. So you need consistent and accessible channels of communication. So it just doesn't happen by accident, it happens regularly. And team members with relevant knowledge need to have confidence that they can speak up when their knowledge is needed, and that they can influence the team from their particular perspective around an issue, a system, or a problem. So the team leader and the team itself need to have this free-flowing communication in real time, but also we talk about these daily huddles. So today we have 10 patients, that's 2 more than usual. Let's talk about how we're going to get them through the door. Yesterday we had this issue. How are we going to address that differently? So you can have a daily huddle, you can have a weekly or monthly debrief. And as you're discussing the issues, your protocols are changing as well. Let's go on to slide number 21. I am a big, big proponent in evaluation and assessment, both in how we do our work and the outcomes of our work. So a team should actually work together and say, what are our goals in terms of effectiveness and efficiency, and how do we measure them? Can we measure them through the health chart? Can we measure them through looking at our timesheets? Can we measure them qualitatively through discussion? So figure out what those process and outcome measures are and track them, look at them, and use them as a basis for improvement. On to the next slide. And then leadership. Again, teams to me infers an equal sense of power and influence, but there still is a team leader. And usually that's kind of the moral leader of the group, the one who sets the stage and the goals. So you do need an effective team leader, but one who acts more as a facilitator and coach and coordinates the overall activities, has a sense of the whole. This team leader needs to actively elicit the input of all team members to share information. And they serve as role models, right? They serve as role models in being a respectful and trusting team member and communicating in real time and showing their appreciation for the work being done. And importantly, the team leader really ensures that every team member has an inclusive and equal voice based on the wisdom embedded in the team. So that was a very brief overview of the characteristics of effective teams. If we go to slide 23, I want to describe to you now, we're going to put you into breakout rooms. And the focus question of your breakout room is, what are some best practices that you have used or that you have heard of related to effective teams? So more formally, related to building and maintaining effective teams in the delivery of reproductive healthcare services. What are some best practices that you use or have heard of? In a minute, we're going to give you about a minute to do some free thinking around that question. We want you first to get your best thinking out. Then we're going to put you in a breakout room for probably about 15 minutes. In that breakout room, each breakout room is going to have a corresponding slide where you are going to enter the best practices that you have used or heard of. We're going to have 5 breakout rooms. The breakout room you are in is going to be in the upper left-hand side of your Zoom screen when you get there. And then there's a corresponding slide for breakout room 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to want to identify a light facilitator just to make sure everyone's voice gets in the room. Isn't that interesting how it mirrors the teamwork we just discussed? And then we'll need someone to enter those best practices into your corresponding slide. And then identify one person from your group who will share one thing that your group talked about in terms of a best practice. So first, let me stop there. If you have any questions, either open up your participant box and raise your hand, or open your question into the chat box, or just unmute yourself and ask any questions before we go into our breakout rooms. Okay, I'm gonna give you 1 minute now before we go into the breakout rooms. Take out a piece of paper and a pen. I'm gonna set my timer for 60 seconds. I want you to do some individual free thinking and brainstorming related to building and maintaining effective teams in the delivery of reproductive healthcare services. What are some best practices that you have used or that you have heard of? Think about the presentation, think about the obstacles, and just do some quick free thinking for about 60 seconds. Then we'll put you in 4 groups, or 5 groups of 4, where you can share your best thinking. All right, why don't we come back all together now? One of the reasons we allow time for free thinking and individual brainstorming is that some of us are extroverts and some of us are introverts. And for those of us that are introverts, sometimes it helps us to get our best thinking out on our own before we share in a large group. So Dustin is going to now put you into 5 groups of 4 people. Identify which breakout group you're in. Identify your corresponding slides. They start on slide 24 for breakout group 1, and that'll take us through slide 29 for, or slide 28 for breakout group 5. Identify a light facilitator to make sure everyone's voice gets in the room. Identify those best practices. Someone can facilitate, somebody can enter in your responses, and then make sure you've identified one person to share one best practice when we come back into the room. Okay, let's go into the breakout rooms and let us know if you have any questions. You can summon us into the breakout rooms if you have any questions, and have fun with one another.
And they are off.
Yay!
We ended up with 4 rooms of 4.
Okay,
One of the rooms has a 5th.
okay. Did we lose people?
I miscounted. I didn't realize there were so many of us were still in as just tech support.
Got
So
it.
it was 24 minus 7. I gotta practice my
Perfect.
basic subtraction.
Perfect. Thank you.
No
Amy, I
problem.
went ahead and adjusted your slides and
I
deleted
saw.
them.
You're so good. I went down and I'm like, what number of slides? Oh my God, we only have 5. That's perfect. I figured it was somebody like you or Jen. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How?
We did set it at 15 minutes, just like you had said.
Yeah.
So let us know.
Sure, no, that's good. 15 minutes should be plenty. How did the first session go, Hannah?
It went great. I feel like everybody really enjoyed it, and we had a lot of good stuff going on in the chat. It's been actually yesterday and today, I feel like have gone really well.
Oh, so you got it started yesterday?
Yeah, we had yesterday morning was kind of the kickoff day, and so this is day 2.
Awesome.
Although I shouldn't speak. Jen can probably speak for HCET.
Oh no, I'm good, Hannah. I think meeting tomorrow and Coterie Spark are slaying. So I think that's what all the cool kids are saying these days.
They're slaying. Yeah.
Slaying.
I know our team is personally really enjoying the content. We keep talking about it. It's just we don't generally do reproductive healthcare conferences. So we're all like totally fascinated by all this stuff.
We wanted to introduce you all to a whole new world.
I think we've told you that the one medical conference that we do every year is a pediatric conference. And they make there's this one session, I'll tell Amy about this, that we're always on the lookout. And this conference has thousands of sessions. But this particular one is called You're in the Know. And it's urologists who are being funny.
Oh, I love it. You know, it's interesting for like somebody like you that does event work, or for me as a facilitator, even though I work in public health, I do get a bird's eye view into a lot of different topic areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like with Surge recently, you know, antibiotic resistant gonorrhea and what's going on. But last week, I facilitate 4 meetings a year for a healthcare collaborative that identifies and treats victims of sex trafficking.
Mm.
Yeah, and last week we had one of our quarterly meetings, and we had a panelist of survivors. So there were 4 women who had been sex trafficked, who were now out of it, you know, recovered from the drugs and alcohol they were a part of, you know, physically healthy, were in a new relationship with children, holding down jobs, you know, all of that. I mean, it stayed with me I think it's still with me. I mean, just the brutality that these women go through. All of them had tattoos of their owner on them. Like, so if Tommy was sex trafficking, you know, one of the survivors, his name was tattooed on her, and all of them still had the tattoos.
Oh.
Right? It's like, because it's hard and difficult to get rid of, but that's how they objectify you, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. On an unrelated conference that I just wrapped up, it's a transportation software conference, and we always support, it's called Truckers Against Trafficking. And I was on their session yesterday because they do a live one, and I was watching, and I mean, just the information that they provide was amazing.
Truckers Against Sex Trafficking?
It's trafficking in general. So they do look at sex trafficking, but they also look at more like at slavery labor as well. So they kind of talk about both.
Yeah.
And basically what they do is they train, in this case, they have several different programs, but truckers in this case, to be aware of their surroundings when they're like stopping and kind of know, like, if you see something wrong, then like, here's a number to call. And they've actually had great success, you know, catching people who are trafficking individuals. It's quite interesting.
That is amazing.
It really is. She had some really great stories too, and just like examples of, you know, because of this program and because of the education that they provide, of how many, you know, people they've been able to put in jail and catch and really like help the problem. So it was an interesting kind of, you know, that conference in general is a lot of software techie update type stuff, but it's nice to have this little ad in there too, to give back as well.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how we get into our bubbles, you know, and then something like, you know, pierces your reality, like, wow, trafficking goes on all these levels, and I would have no idea of it unless I, you know, participated in this.
Amy, it looks like no one's typing in breakout room 4 yet. I don't know at what time, but 1, 2, and 3, they're doing really well.
Okay, awesome.
I don't know if you want to put some encouragement in the breakout 4 slide.
Yeah, let me see. I can go in there. So I'll just write 9 minutes left.
Oh, there they go. Oh, no, you're doing it.
That's me.
I got so excited.
Okay. There we go. I just put 9 minutes left. Please start documenting when you can. Okay, so yeah, let me see what they're coming up with. So Jen, our reproductive health clinics are back open and serving patients, right?
I believe so, but I do think that they're pretty short staffed because they also have the COVID response. Like some people are still, I think, volunteering for COVID response. So I think that it's long hours, short staffed, and kind of being pulled in a couple different directions is my understanding.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to take my note.
I will say it's never, I don't remember whose session it was, but I definitely related to it. I think it was this morning with Sarah. She was talking about how people don't have as much access to birth control, and that there's a lot of unplanned pregnancies happening right now. And my OBGYN has pushed my appointment twice. So I was supposed to go in in April or May. I am now scheduled for December.
Oh, wow.
And I only was able to get in 2020 because I basically sat there and was like, look, I haven't seen you guys in almost 3 years. Like, can we let's just move this up? Like, I want to have a conversation with you guys. Obviously I need to get my, exam done. Like, let's move this along. Like, I understand you have other people and pregnancies and all that to deal with, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah. I called to get my kids like their annual with their pediatrician. And at the time that I called, they're like, we are only seeing like kids that need their immunizations for school. They wouldn't even schedule them. And so then when my son was sick, I called to say the school's not going to let him back for 10 days unless he gets an alternate diagnosis. So They just sent me to have them, get a COVID check, and he was negative. So she did a phone call with him before she signed a paper, which wasn't still good enough. And he still had to be out for 10 days, even though he was negative. She's like, okay, well, we haven't seen him in a while. I said, I tried to get him in, but I was told you guys aren't taking anyone outside of like vaccinations. And she's like, oh, well, maybe call back. That should have changed. I'm like, okay. Would love to get them in so they don't become inactive.
So Jen, are your kids back to in-person school?
Yeah. So my youngest, he's in 7th grade and he goes all 5 days. But he wasn't feeling well the other day. And so I called him in saying he doesn't have a fever or sore throat, just like a little sour tummy. And they're like, he's out for 10 days. And then my oldest, my daughter, she is a sophomore, and they now have a hybrid where she goes every other week. She goes 3 days, and then the other 2 is e-learning. And then the next week would be going 2 days, and the others are e-learning.
So is that so they can like stagger the amount of people that are in the building? So there are other kids. There's like 2 groups basically.
Yeah, because their colors are black and gold. So there's like the black team and the gold team. And so like A through K was the black team, and L through Z is the gold team. Because they have like 800 people in each class. So 3,200 plus teachers and admin staff and support staff. So by doing it that way, it's kind of like dividing them in half. Who's in the building.
Double duty for the teachers though.
It is, but I mean, like in my son's school, you could have chose going back or e-learning. And if you chose a straight e-learning, then you have to do it for the 9-week time period. You can't go between the 2. So what they did is they figured out who was signing up for e-learning. So then they assigned like a group of teachers over this e-learning, and they have like true, like you have to sign in by this time. They have Zoom meetings, like it's very organized. And so then you have these other teachers that are in person, and and so they handle all the kids that are coming in person. The problem is that like when Seth was out for 10 days, there was he didn't just go over to the virtual platform with the virtual students because they have their classes assigned already. So he was kind of like in this no man's land of having to just do kind of like makeup work, like if you're out sick, and what he can do on his MacBook. So he was getting no instructions from anywhere and just trying to stay up with his work.
Oh my gosh, that's a nightmare.
Yes, especially when he says, help me, Mom, help me. And I'm like, I'm working. And he's like, you can take a break to help me. And it's like, no.
Oh man.
That's
And
rough.
so then he's doing his work at like 5 or 6 o'clock at night because that's when I can help him.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, Jen. That's stressful.
That is super stressful.
It's I would say it's stressful because I know that he's trying to be good and like get it done.
Yeah.
But, and I wouldn't say, I guess it's just more, I know, frustrating for him, and it's just annoying. It's more annoying than anything, really. Like, I get it. Like, I get it. I don't want to make anyone sick, but ultimately we're trying to finagle through just like everyone else. So
Yeah. I will say, our coworker Candace, she has her son Ramsey. He started kindergarten this year. Kindergarten on an iPad is hilarious.
I bet.
Oh, how you almost have to have a parent dedicated to be a learning partner next to younger kids, right?
Yeah, pretty much. She usually sits next to her son while he's good. He's like engaged in it, and he finds it entertaining, which is great. And I mean, they do all the classes. He has like regular kindergarten class. They do PE. He was doing yoga the other day in their living room, like all kinds of craziness.
Love it. Love it.
But I mean, at least it's something for him. He's at that age where any sort of entertainment from anybody is just exciting.
It just makes me so sad because it didn't have to be this way, right? Our schools should, certainly we should be in much more control of this as a country. And certainly there were going to be some hot spots. The virus is with us, but that it's this bad, right? And inhibiting us this much is just absolutely crazy to me.
Oh yeah, you don't have to tell me twice.
Okay, I won't. Did you say you were in Texas?
Yeah, I'm in Houston.
Yeah, so you guys, the storm.
Yeah, non-existent. It looks like it could actually be sunny outside from where I'm sitting.
Did it hit you at all?
Not really, no. There's maybe the trees in the courtyard of my apartment complex are lightly swaying, but not even a strong breeze.
Okay, so it must have turned east then.
It turned east, yeah.
Jutted, yeah. I saw your governor on TV this morning, and this is what I did to him.
Yeah, I probably would have done the same thing.
Sorry, just my personal opinion.
You're fine. Just so you're aware, you're less than a minute out.
You don't want him coming back. So when I was in DC, I went to Black Lives Matter Mall while I was down there.
Yeah.
And which is right across from the White House. And the White House is now barricaded and fenced. And I went on the north lawn and I did this. And then I went on the south lawn and I did that. And it just made me feel better.
Yeah.
I know I should keep it to myself, but I can't.
It's okay. It's okay. You don't gotta hide from me.
Good. Black Lives Matter Mall was pretty cool. All of the protest signs and.
I can imagine it's a historical event.
Yeah, and of course now we're having a major unrest here in southeast Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
So their timer is up, and I can manually close their rooms or give them more time.
Nope, close them out.
Closing down. Coming back.
Awesome. Welcome back. We'll just wait a couple more minutes for everyone to get back into the room. You can visit the other rooms. You can pop in between slides 24 to 28 to see the best practices of the other small groups. When everyone comes back, we will direct our attention to slide number 29. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, now just a reminder that when you come back into the main room, you'll need to enable your chat box again. you can pop in between the slides of the other breakout rooms. So you can look at slides 24 through 28 and see the list of best practices that were crowdsourced and discussed from the other small breakout groups. But we aren't going to go to slide 29. I'd like to ask the designated reporter from each of the 4 breakout groups to unmute yourself. And I'd like to hear first from breakout group 1, what is one best practice that you surfaced and discussed that you'd like to share with the whole group? And again, we are on slide 29. So if the reporter from breakout group 1 could unmute and share.
Hi, Amy. It's Jolene. One that we come up with was effective communication by calling your colleague or going to them in person versus Skype or email to eliminate any miscommunication.
Great. Hi, Jolene.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. Okay, if I could ask the reporter from breakout group 2 to unmute yourself and share a best practice that you surfaced.
Hi, this is Ashley from Health First. One that I thought was kind of nice would be a morning huddle.
Ashley, we're having a little trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better.
Is that any better?
Yes.
Much. Thank you.
Okay. I said that morning huddles would be great, and with how it is right now, using like a Zoom function and doing it virtually, just for quick little updates.
Great. The other thing you can do in huddles is not only provide didactic information on updates, but even a reflection. What worked well yesterday? What are we going to do differently today? So you can even expand those. Thank you. Breakout group 3, what is the best practice that you guys surfaced?
We also had having staff meetings every week or two just to make sure that there's additional check-ins beyond the briefings during the day.
Okay. Excellent, thank you. And I would just add to that, when you have your staff meetings, that you should actually be reflecting on your policies, your procedures, your protocols that delineate roles and responsibilities, because that's a living document. Or you might have a new innovation around your teamwork. You want to constantly have your teamwork standardized process and workflow updated based on your experiences. Thank you. And breakout group 4, please unmute yourself and share a best practice.
We talked exactly what you just said about how every person should have an identified role and updating those policies with that role. And we talked about a couple other things, but basically an expectation for each person.
Excellent. So I'd like to invite you all, I'm going to give you just a minute now. We just wanted to surface kind of one highlight from each group. I'd like to give you a minute now to go to slides 24, 25, 26, and 27, and 28. Or no, just 27, sorry. And review all of the findings of the group, okay? So just take 1 minute and read through the best practices that surfaced from each one of those breakout groups. It's fun seeing you guys move through the breakout rooms. when you're done reading through the outcomes of the 4 breakout rooms, meet me at slide number 30. So we engage in teamwork in a healthcare delivery system, or in this case, a reproductive healthcare setting, because we want to do better and we want to do more. We want to meet the needs of our clients. We want to improve health outcomes among individuals we serve, as well as the community at large. And we want to be more efficient, right? We can serve more people and maybe even enhance our bottom line and our financial health. So in slide 30, I want you just to take a minute, maybe take out that piece of paper where you brainstormed best practices and think through what might you or your team do differently to improve the effectiveness and the efficiency of your teamwork. Think through where you might need to improve related to shared goals, clear roles, effective communication, measurable processes and outcomes, and leadership. So just take a minute to think about what you might do differently. When you've given that a thought, and there's no rush, let's all meet in slide 31. You'll need to double click on these Post-it notes, and we'd like you to share what is something that you are going to do differently to improve the effectiveness and the efficiency of your team. What is the intention that you're leaving our workshop with today? Or the new idea? And all you need to do is double click on these Post-its and add what you will do differently. I love this. We have to initiate or start team huddles, to engage in daily huddles, to listen to one another. And to me, that's listening very attentively and deeply, to actively elicit team members' inputs. Again, some of those questions. What are our shared goals? Where are we doing well? Where could we improve? What is blocking us from being the most effective or efficient team we can be? Daily check-in with peers. Continually sharing what our roles are. You know, just all the teams I've led, that is another cornerstone in addition to evaluation. If people know what is expected of them and they know where their role starts and stops, but also have some flexibility, if that's clear to them, they will thrive. Communication, being phoned daily to check in. Clear communication. Review policies regularly. These are all excellent. Take on additional teamwork to decrease work. Excellent. So please keep sharing. We're on slide 31, but if you want to go to slide 32, you can answer there. And we are 2 minutes to the end of our time together today. I just want to thank you all for your active participation today. I'm not sure if you were expecting all of the interaction or all of the inclusivity to this session, but I hope that you enjoyed it and that you enjoyed meeting one another, enjoyed sharing your challenges, your best practices, and just connecting in this time where we may feel a little physically distant from one another. It's nice to have these opportunities to interact with one another. And with that, I thank you all. I bid you adieu and enjoy the rest of your conference.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Jeremy.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. Thanks to all of you.
Thank Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Awesome. You're welcome.